Okay, I'm sure there.
Good evening, doctors. Thank you for joining us on time for the session. Please wait a couple of minutes while we admit everybody else. Meanwhile, make sure that you can see the screen that is shared at this point in time. Good evening, doctors. Thank you for joining us on time. Over to Dr. Binu for the introductory session.
Good evening. Good evening, one and all.
Good evening, doctors. Thank you.
Why don't we give like around 2 to 3 minutes more for more people? I'm getting messages that they can't log in. So give us, let's give around 2 to 3 minutes more. We should. YouTube live
Absolutely, sir.
started, right? I got a message that they can't get into YouTube. I think it started, right? It's fine now. Am I right?
Yes, sir. We have around 55 people already watching on YouTube.
How much?
Let's slowly wait for the numbers to pump up as well.
Yeah, 72 watching in YouTube. Yeah, perfect. So that makes sense. Let's wait for a minute more. We'll start. All right. Joe, I think there are almost 80 people in the YouTube at this point of time, right?
So there's 189 actually.
Wow. Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. So, good evening, one and all, for this yet another session from online dentistry. But this time we are doing it different. We have a guest faculty. We have one of the finest speakers in India, Dr. Arun. He will be officially introduced soon. But my association with Dr. Arun goes back all the way from 2008 when we did our orthodontic programs together. Amazing personality to meet. That clinic in T Nagar, something to go and visit. Thank you so much for the great time you gave me when I came there. If I remember correctly, every third month of the year, every third month I used to be in your clinic. What a time that was with the International Association of Orthodontics. And then things he did a different route altogether. We took a different route altogether. After a long time, we managed to keep our personal relationship. He came to my house, I went to his place. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Arun, for being with us, for being with online dentistry. Now, when it comes to practice management, Dr. Arun, I have been talking about practice management for the last maybe 20 years in online dentistry, in IDA, everywhere. Okay. So people have heard my practice management a lot. So I had to literally announce in our platform that it's not my practice management today. It's an entirely different stuff. It's stuff that can take your practice to the next level, not the kind of practice management I was talking about. Sir, I was talking about all this, how to talk to the patient and how to manage the kids and all that stuff. Yeah, you are talking about different level, the business and dentistry part. That is so amazing that there are somebody doing the business part so professionally. As a matter of fact, we even had a discussion about this program with colleges. Colleges should be having programs like this as the curriculum of dentistry, period. And believe me, let this be a beginning. I'm sure some college principals listening to us will think about it, at least put in some part of the syllabus as the business of dentistry. So I don't want to waste too much of the time. It's already 9:10. So without any delay, Dr. Arun, all the very best. I know you will rock the show. Okay. And about the program you are involved in, the business school you are involved in, and the amazing programs you guys are doing in Singapore as well as in India. I know about all that. We will announce all that in our platform soon. But today's let this be a session on practice management and a practice to the next level. So with these words, let me hand it over to Dr. Anita, who is going to formally introduce Dr. Arun, because I just cannot formally introduce Arun, my best friend. So, Dr. Anita, it's all to you.
Thank you, sir. So, hello, good evening, all. So without further ado, let me proudly introduce the speaker for the day, Dr. Arun. Dr. Arun is a periodontist and a consultant implantologist with an amazing experience over 35 years in dental practice. So, he completed his bachelor's and his master's in periodontics from Madras Dental College with keen interest in periodontology, implantology, and digital dentistry. He is currently the adjunct faculty and key opinion leader for dental tech and industry. So, furthermore, he secured his fellowship in oral implantology, and also he did his master's in business administration from AU College of Engineering. So, to his credit, he delivered over 200 lectures and published numerous articles. And so, today we are immensely happy to hear from you. So, on behalf of Online Dentistry, I proudly welcome you to the session, sir. The session is all yours. Welcome, sir.
Arun sir, you will receive a notification asking you to unmute. If you could please click that.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I got a notification to unmute. Thank you. I thought I had a gag order. Okay. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much, Dr. Anita, for the wonderful introduction, and thank you very much, Binu, for getting back after so many years. It's been such a long time. I'm really impressed and happy to see you, and also about online dentistry and the work that you and Dr. Joby are doing. I think it's been a phenomenal thing for a lot of young practitioners, and I think practitioners across the entire spectrum, everybody that's interested in your program. There is an overwhelming response to this webinar in these times, and that I think is a very, very big positive thing. It speaks volumes about the reach that you have, and I'm really honored to be a part of Online Dentistry's program on practice management, and I'll probably spend the next 45 minutes to an hour basically talking about practice management in in terms of the business angle of dentistry. And I know that, you talk a lot about the internal marketing thing and how people have to conduct themselves in order to run a successful practice. And that is a big element of your lecture series. And today, this is going to be more about the business end of dentistry. I mean, what exactly we're going to do in dentistry? How do you look at this as a business element and not? Now, those of you that are trying to fool yourself saying that you're in a great, it's a service thing and you're doing this. Well, yes, of course you are. But if you look at all the doctors who have been successful over a period of time, no wonder everybody's in service, everybody's empathetic, everybody wants to do something good. But at the same time, you need to understand that you run an organization, and it's the onus of responsibility of running an organization, your staff, your people, your family, and the way to be profitable is a very, very important element. The way to generate cash is a very, very important element of your practice, because eventually that is what will speak volumes about the health and the success of your practice. From where I'm coming from, I basically am a general dental practitioner. I do a fair amount of dental implants, periodontal surgery, and minor surgery. That's most of my work. I am very heavily involved nowadays in digital dentistry, and I like to learn about management. In fact, I took a management course from Anna University here, which is the College of Engineering here in Chennai. And I did a 2-year program there. And over a period of time, I have been lecturing on and off about management. But the most important element is fairly recently, together with Gold Collar, I am an adjunct faculty at the Indian School of Business, which runs a very, very interesting business leadership program. And this business leadership program specifically is aimed at dentists. We had a wonderful batch which concluded fairly recently. And it's an eye-opener, because this is the executive education element of ISB, which is now rated as the #1 business school in the country, is something to talk about, is something to learn from. And my own experience of being involved with all the faculty and my own involvement in this has been quite dramatic and quite informative and quite life-changing, so to speak. So that is one of the things that's motivated me to delve more into management, more into understanding the business side of things. And, as the years get by and you get older, you want to be more of an entrepreneur and manager than more of a worker. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So with that basic information, let me talk about a few things. Now, this is titled, "What is 10 Game-Changing Strategies to Supercharge Your Dental Practice?" What does it mean? It means, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stick with 10. All I'm going to do is I thought I'll just give you some interesting thing to think about, because what you will take home from this are very serious messages. And these serious messages will help you enhance the practice, enhance your life, enjoy your dentistry, enjoy your life over the next n number of years of your career. So coming from that perspective, let me delve directly into what I'm talking about. So the first thing is that we need to look at what exactly a practice is. Now, how many of you, I'm sure there are people here who have got 1 year, 2 year, 3 years of practice. There are people here who have 5, 7 years of practice. And there are people here who might have more than 10 to 15 years of practice. And I have been talking to a lot of dentists over the years, and I have found that not one of them says that I'm working less. Most of the people are tired and they say, okay, I am doing more work than what I should be doing. What is the return that I am getting? How much of us are so excited to go in and see that, okay, the crown and bridge has it come from the lab or not? Do I have this material or not? This patient is coming tomorrow. How do I escape this, or how do I postpone this appointment? Sometimes these things become quite unmanageable. Things become a little unpredictable. And sometimes you feel that they become unrewarding as well. It's not the general thing. There are good days, but there are more days where you're exhausted than exhilarated. And that's what makes the difference. So what do you do when you get onto that? You try, and when you have a problem, you try to work harder. You intoxicate yourself with more of your work, and then you forget who you really are. You become one with your practice. If you are removed from the practice, then there is no practice. And that's how everything is. It's slowly but surely, you know that there's something wrong, something that's growing a little crazy. So why do you think all of these things happen? And one of the reasons that I think that many people find the demand of day-to-day dentistry quite taxing, quite sometimes unmanageable, sometimes exhausting, is because most of us make a critically very wrong assumption. And that wrong assumption is that because we know the technical work of our business, we understand the business of the technical work. Don't blink here. Try and analyze what I'm saying. Because you think that because you know the technical work of your business, you think that you understand the business of the technical work. What do I mean by this? Let's look at any practice. Any given practice moves through 3 stages of life, just like any human being. You have a stage of infancy, you have a stage of adolescence, and you have a stage of maturity. What is the stage of infancy? As soon as you start your practice, why did you start your practice? Probably somewhere you were working somewhere, and then you decided, okay, I need to be my own boss. I need to decide what I want to do, when I want to do, how I want to do it. I will be the boss of my life. And then you decide, okay, for this, I should start the practice. Let me get 1 or 2 chairs. Let me start making money. And I'm going to be the owner of something. And you make that abundantly clear. You start doing your work. You make sure that your customers know you're the owner. So you put up a board saying, you know, this is Anupama's dental clinic, or this is Sarvana's dental clinic, or whatever it is. So people, your customers don't forget who's the boss. And then you start working. And as you work, you find that you are doing things that you know how to do, but you're also doing things that you don't know how to do. You don't know how to buy things at a lesser cost. You don't know how to get the work done faster. You don't know how to manage people. You don't know how to manage accounts. And all of these things are things you learn on the move. You learn this you just wing it and then try and see if you are able to manage it. And this is how most of us work. So now what are you doing? You're juggling a number of balls at the same time. You're working on the accounts, you're working on the supplies, you're working on HR, you're working on ops, you're working on how to get more patients. And sooner or later, as the number of patients becomes more and more, you begin to drop some of these juggling balls. And then you figure out, okay, you get to be overworked. So you start with an 8-hour work schedule, then you work 10 hours, then you work 12 hours, then you work 14 hours, and you work and work and work because all you know is work. You don't know anything else. You don't know anything better. And then what happens is that you begin to see that, okay, at this point, I have to find extra people. Let me get someone else to come and work and help me around. And then suddenly you get an accountant. And this accountant has been practicing for more than 20 years, writing accounts all over, because that's the first thing you don't understand about any business, the accounts part. All you do is speak to your chartered accountant at the end of the year, and he asks you how much tax you want to pay, and you blurt out something, and then he works out your calculation. But you really want to know what's the health of your business. You really want to know where you're making money, what's happening to your bank balances. Am I really doing well? What am I borrowing? So on and so forth. And so you get hold of an accountant, and this accountant comes in and he starts doing some of the account work, and then your eyes open up and you see that he's doing a few things and that you don't know how to do. And more importantly, you don't like doing it. And so you start giving more and more responsibilities to your accountant. And this person eventually starts looking at HR. And then you say, okay, when you're not looking at accounts, why don't you look at which staff is coming in, which staff is going out? Why don't you attend the telephone? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And slowly, sooner or later, this 20-year-old experienced person who was there in your practice, who came in as an accountant, slowly becomes the person who guides and runs everything. He comes and often asks you, how do I do this? How do I do that? But then you, as an individual, want to say, okay, you take care of it. You know so much, you take care of it. So what you're actually doing is you're abdicating your work. You're not delegating your work to somebody. And after a while, you realize that you know very little about your practice. And then sometimes a crown and bridge doesn't come on time, or sometimes there is no implant that is available when you have a patient sitting on the chair. Sometimes you run out of local anesthetic. You really don't know what is going on. And then you start shouting at people, and then you say, and then, you become an adolescent. You're angry at everything. You have your own whims and fancies. You're flirting and fleeting every time. And you're simply how teenagers are. An adolescent teenager is angry all the time. And this is how your practice builds up. This is how you are. And then there are two ways to go about it. Either you decide that, okay, let me tone this thing down. It's getting too much. And whatever accountant is doing, is probably is doing good stuff, not doing bad stuff. Nothing is getting managed. Let me become small again. Let me just cut down things and let me start removing stuff that I won't want, pay off all my suppliers, make myself a little smaller so that I can be a little more happier and a little more successful. So you make yourself smaller, thinking that you will get better. But then as you make yourself smaller, you realize that you're going back to who you were. And after some time, you start beginning to wonder why you are in this at all. And why are you basically struggling so much in order to, make a living? You wanted to be your own boss, but you're not the boss anymore. Now you have a job which you don't want to go to. And then you decide, okay, this is probably the worst job in the world. And you want to tell people, I don't want to go to the job. You want to tell your spouse, you don't want to go to the job. But your spouse will probably say, if you don't go, who's going to go? So you become a person, you become one with the job. So more than being a boss, now you own a job. Now, I have friends of mine. I have a very close friend who says that, listen, I'm so sick and tired of my clinic. I go to a college in the morning and work. Evening, I come and work in this clinic. Something works, something doesn't work. This has happened, that happens. I just want to sell your clinic. You talk so much about business. Why don't you just buy my clinic? And then he's a good friend of mine. So I don't have the heart to tell him that, listen, boss, you don't own a business, you own a job. Who wants to buy a job? Nobody wants to buy a job. So the point that I'm trying to make here is you need to look at how to mature from an adolescent stage of your practice into some practice that goes into some level of maturity. What is this level of maturity? Maturity is understanding where you want to be and working backwards to what you should do in order to get there. So rather than thinking from an infant and an adolescent stage as to what are the things that I should do to get somewhere, you visualize in your mind, you begin with the end in mind, where you want to be and how many steps you have to take back in order to get there. What should you do now so that 5 years from now, you are somewhere else? That is the essence of this talk. And the things that will help you manage this are too many. But I will look at 4 or 5 different things which can help you quickly run through what I mean and quickly visualize the health of your practice. There are 5 main areas which I thought is relevant to you. Of course, in the management side, there are several more, but these 5 are somewhat critically important. I'll talk a little bit about finance, a little bit about operations. Finance is the lifeblood of your business. So how do you manage finance? A little bit about operations, how day-to-day activity occurs, a little bit about sales. What are the treatments that you should concentrate upon? Which is the one that's bringing you the best revenues? What are the things that you like doing and why do you do them? We talk a little bit about marketing. What is a brand? How do you position yourself as a brand? And from an operations point of view, which I find a lot of people worry about, is inventory. What to stock, what not to stock. That is also plays a very important role in the way you run your business and how it works. So the basics of management, if you look at finance, the primary purpose of understanding finance, the primary purpose of any business is growth in profits. I want you to understand that and keep that at the back of your mind. Growth in profits is the primary purpose of any business. If your business is not growing and you're not making more profits, more cash, then you're not holding on to the financial aspect of your business. What about operations? Your day-to-day life should not be spent worrying about the nitty-gritties of day-to-day operations. You should spend more time thinking about how you grow. Somebody needs to think about the business. Somebody needs to be on the business, and the best person is you as an entrepreneur. You also need to understand what is sales, how many patients are coming in, what is your skill set, what do your patients want, how good are you at delivering what they want, how good are you at making money out of the things that you deliver. We also talk about marketing. What is exactly is marketing? Why do you have to have a brand? What is your brand? Who are you? And in the minds of your patients, so on and so forth. I will talk a little bit about inventory, what to stock, what not to stock. So coming from the finance point of view, who do you think is the finance person in your clinic? Now, if I ask this question, and I've asked this to several people, and most of the dentists, my friends, so many others say, oh, the accountant is the finance person of the clinic. Remember that an accountant is just a recorder of events and transactions that happen in your clinic. An accountant can do nothing more than that. There is a tremendous difference between accounts and finance. We think that an accountant is a person who will tell us how to run the business, who will tell us how to generate profit, who will tell us where to borrow money, what to do, how much to borrow, what rate to borrow, what do I invest in. Accountants do nothing of that sort. They are only scorekeepers. Now, if you watch a cricket match, you have a scorekeeper. You need a scorekeeper because you want to know who won and who lost. But the scorekeeper cannot win the match for you. You, as an individual, have to play the game in order to win the match. So if you think that your accountant is the finance person and you are not the finance person and nobody else in your clinic is the finance person, then who is the non-finance person in your clinic? Now, everything that happens in the business, which has an implication on the bottom line of the business, is related to finance. So if anybody in your clinic, right from your housekeeping to the person who's scheduling the appointment, to the chairside assistant, to the doctors that work for you, to yourself, anybody who has any impact on the bottom line of your business is a financial person. And this is a key element of your understanding because each one of them can contribute to the financial health of your practice. So where does the accountant fit in? Does the accountant have a job or he doesn't have a job? Of course, he has a job. And the job that he has is he creates reports. Because of the diligent way in which he records every transaction, he can create two basic reports for you. The first report is called a P&L statement, which stands for a profit and loss statement. The second report that he creates is called a balance sheet, and they're very, very, very good at it. This is their day-to-day, this is their bread and butter. They're so good at it. So they will create a profit and loss account and a balance sheet. Now, if you think that because you see the numbers, this is an accurate estimate of what is happening, there's nothing that is further from the truth. We, as people who have looked at biological sciences and not looked too much at math, well, you got into dentistry because you didn't really like maths, correct? So you didn't want to get involved in the mathematics part of it. And you get scared by numbers and you believe numbers. You go to a shop, you see a shirt which says it's a price tag, it costs you 3,000 rupees. You think it's written on stone and then you don't do anything else and you buy it. I used to see tender coconut sellers on the road, and before they never used to have a board which says this tender coconut costs you 30 rupees. They used to just sell tender coconuts, and you go and ask them how much it's, and if he says 30 rupees, then I've seen many people bargain and say, why don't you give it for 20? Or if somebody says 60 rupees, why don't you give it for 40? But nowadays, I even see tender coconut sellers having a board which says 30 rupees or 40 rupees, and nobody questions them. Everybody gets a tender coconut for 30 or 40 rupees. People are so scared of numbers that they believe that any number that is written in stone, it cannot be changed. Nothing is further from the truth. Every single accountant does two things. There is an art element to the finance part or accounts part. There's a science element to the finance or accounts part. The art element is there is a lot of assumptions that the accountants use. Accountants have no idea of what the business is, but they use a lot of assumptions. And with these assumptions, they create these sheets. You, as a business owner, know exactly what is happening. And the only two records that they will provide is the P&L and the balance sheet. So you must know how to read the balance sheet because there is an information you can gain from it. What the accountant does is like anatomy, like a post-mortem report. It just tells you what actually happened. You must discover the physiology behind it. You should look at a balance sheet and then decide what is the information that you have and how you can make the best use of it. And the one report that they don't give you until you beg for it is something called a cash flow statement. So if you are able to get a cash flow statement from your accountant, it's a great thing. It's a great achievement. And I'll talk to you a little bit about what the cash flow statement is. The P&L is a report of how much profits or what losses you made in a given period of time. A balance sheet is a picture. It's a snapshot of what is the status of your practice. How much of the practice belongs to you? How much of it you own? How much of it you owe to other people? It could be a bank, it could be your parents, it could be friends from whom you have borrowed. What belongs to you, what you owe to other people. That's the balance sheet. And a cash flow statement is essentially a statement which tells you how the money or cash actually moved in the practice. How did the money come in? How did the money go out? Where did the money come in? Where did it go out? When did it come in? When did it go out? An accurate record of this is basically a cash flow statement. So having a basic understanding of this, let's look at what exactly profit is. Now, let's say you have a clinic. In the first quarter of your 3 months, you started a clinic. In 3 months, you made a total sales of 4 lakh rupees. And you had some 5 lakh rupees in your bank, and then you bought some equipment for 5 lakh rupees. You bought materials for 2 lakh rupees, and over the 3 months, you paid salaries for 50,000 rupees. So looking at the P&L statement, if you see, on your P&L on the left-hand side, your material cost was about 2 lakh rupees. Your sales was 4 lakh rupees. So you spent 2 lakh on materials, you made 4 lakhs, but then you also had a little bit of expense. This expense was on salaries for the staff you had over 3 months, you paid 50,000 rupees. And you also, your material that you used, your compressor, your aerator, your chair, your light, whatever, got depreciated, got worn out over a period of time. And I'm assuming that it gone out for a worth for about 50,000 rupees. So what's your total outflow? You lost 3 lakh, you spent 3 lakh, 2 lakh on materials, 50,000 on salaries, 50,000 depreciation. You gained 4 lakhs, you made 4 lakhs, so you made a profit of 1 lakh. Good, that's very good. What's happened to your balance sheet? If you look at the balance sheet, you had a machinery which you bought for 5 lakhs, and then you lost some value on the machinery, which was close to about 50,000 rupees. So that made that your total balance sheet now shows an asset value of 4,50,000 rupees. Now, the question now is, what's your bank balance? Now, any of you who can understand this and tell me what the bank balance will be very clearly saying that, okay, listen, this is what the bank balance is, or sorry, just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So the bank balance now, if you see, is a negative 350,000. Why? Because you had 5 lakhs in the bank and you lost 50,000. You eventually your position is minus 4,50,000 because you bought stuff with 5 lakh rupees. You gained 1 lakh. So from 4,50,000, you added another 1 lakh rupees. But so your bank balance is a negative 3,50,000 rupees. The profit was 1 lakh, but your bank balance is the negative. Okay. So what does this mean? This technically means that profit does not necessarily mean money. Profit is not necessarily cash. You must pay attention to generating cash as well. And how do you go about doing that? Let's see. How much is it here? Just give me 1 second. I think we have some technical issue here. It's not changing the slides. Just give me a second. I'm sorry about this. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is what it is. And you need to start paying attention to generating cash. Okay. So let's see what is a cash flow statement and how exactly do you run a cash flow statement. And for that, you need to understand what exactly is a P&L and what's, and in the most simplistic terms, let me see what a P&L is. Now, in a profit and loss account, basically on the one side, you have materials, you have salaries, you have operating expenses, you have admin expenses. And then if you have borrowed money, you pay interest. So at the end of paying for your materials, paying for general administrative expenses, salaries, and interest, whatever you get is the profit. And that's what's called bottom line. And from the income side, the top line is what's the total revenue that you make from all your operations, and also maybe some other income, like you sold some stuff or whatever you did. All of that is your profit and loss account. And where does this reflect on the balance sheet? If you see, the balance sheet is a snapshot, like I said. And in this snapshot, you have two elements. One, which is called the liability, and another, which is called the asset. What is the asset? Whatever you have bought, there can be fixed assets and there can be current assets. Fixed assets means stuff like your land, your buildings, whatever equipment that you have bought, machinery, plant, so on and so forth. All the stuff that you see, the big stuff that you need to run the practice. And then you have your current assets. What's your current asset? What you have in the bank? Or what is it that you have in terms of your inventory, or what is it that your patients owe you? So your patients are borrowing your money. You see, they get some treatment done, and still some of your money is left with them. That is also your current asset. And what about your liabilities? Your liabilities are basically your loans, which you may borrow from your bank, or it may be your parents have given you some money, or your friends have loaned you some money, or your relatives have loaned you some money. Whatever it is, those will be your liabilities. And your current liabilities will be in terms of whatever you owe to your suppliers. Maybe you have to pay your lab at the end of the month. So the lab has given you credit for 30 days. Or maybe you have to pay your suppliers at the end of the month. So your suppliers are giving you credit for 30 days. And sometimes banks will let you draw an overdraft. Like if you may have a cash credit facility and you say, okay, I can withdraw up to 90% of a 10 lakh deposit. So you can draw up to 9 lakhs if you put a 10 lakh fixed deposit in the bank, and bank will let you overdraw against the fixed deposit. So these are some of the ways in which you have your liabilities. But understand that there is some similarity between these two things. In both, when you talk about expenses versus assets, understand, and I want you to concentrate a little bit here. When you say an expense, money is leaving your hand and going to somebody else. When you say an asset, you want to buy land or you want to buy a building, money from you is going towards buying the building. So there, your money is going out of your hand. Why this is important for you to understand is I talked to you about the cash flow statement, and the cash flow records every single money flow, whatever money is coming in, whatever money is going out. Similarly, if you look at income and liability, you might say, what is similar between getting sales of total X amount of money and the bank that is giving me an overdraft? There is a similarity here because in both of the cases, money is coming to you. When you do sales and you get cash from your patients, that's money coming to you. Or when a bank loans you money, that's money coming to you. This is fairly easy to understand. But when you create the cash flow statement, when you actually create the statement of how the cash is flowing through you, then this logic becomes a little bit counterintuitive. And so you stick with me with this and you'll understand this. So let's say that you have to generate what is called as a cash flow statement. Let's say you have a situation like this. Now here, if you see, this is a typical standard practice. Let's say this particular clinic made so much of money over 86 lakh 89,000 over a certain period of time, and this was the cost of the goods that were sold, and eventually made a profit of 2 lakh 48,000 rupees. So just making some assumptions. Now here, if you see, there are situations here where you can assess what has happened over two separate periods of time. Like for example, if you have a balance sheet that ended on 31st March 23, which is how in the Indian system, all balance sheets, they start from 1st of April and on 31st of March. And you have another balance sheet which ended on 31st March 2024. Like I said, a balance sheet is a picture. I don't know if you've run, you've seen in comics or newspapers, there are two pictures, and spot the 6 differences between this and that. So likewise, let's start looking at spotting the differences between the balance sheet of what was on 31st March 2020. The picture on 31st March 2023, which is what you owned and what you owed on 31st March 2023, versus 31st March 2024, what you owned and what you owed. Now, if you look at cash in your bank, in cash, you had 72,000 rupees in 23, you have 83,000 rupees in 24. Okay. Your accounts receivable, that is the money that you have to receive from your patients. You had 1,204 or rather 12 lakh 4,000 rupees in 2023, and here you have 13 lakh 12,000 rupees. Look at the change that has happened. Your money is now, you have this much money that your patients have to give you. Comparatively, there is another 1 lakh 8,000 rupees that is sitting with your patients. So what has happened? Your asset has decreased. When I say that the asset has decreased, what has actually happened is your cash is lying with them. Cash has flown out of you into somebody else's hand. And it's the same thing in terms of, let's say you have property, plant, and equipment. In 31st March 23, you had 22 lakh 64,000 worth of equipment and stuff. Now you have 22 lakhs 30,000 worth of equipment and stuff, which means that there has been a change of 3 lakh 34,000 rupees that has decreased. Or if you looked at, say, accounts payable, that is what you owe to your lab and what you owe to your material suppliers. On 31st March here, you had 11,29,000, which you had to give to your suppliers. Now you have 10,12,000, 22,000, which means you've already given to your supplier. Your liability has decreased. So what has happened in this scenario, your cash, which was lying with you, has actually gone out of your hand into the hand of your supplier or into the hand of the lab. Hopefully you are with me in this. So what are the ways in which cash can come inside your clinic and cash can go outside your clinic? We are very interested in understanding cash because I made it abundantly clear right in the beginning that making a profit does not mean that you're making cash. I have a friend who keeps telling me, I don't understand this cash flow. You make so much profit and then you say that it's a cash flow problem. How do you handle the cash flow? Now listen, there is a huge difference between what is profit and what is cash. And if you looked at any businesses that have gone broke, nobody has gone broke because they have not made a profit. Nobody is so stupid that they'll buy an implant at 5,000 rupees and sell the implant to someone or do the implant service at 4,000 rupees. Nobody is going to do that. Nobody is so stupid that they will not make a profit. Well, you might not make a profit, for instance, but it's not something that's going to happen every day. You aim at making profit. You want to buy something at lesser cost, sell it at a higher cost, make a profit. But cash flow is something totally different. It is most businesses will fail largely because of a cash flow problem, never because of a profitability problem. And that is something you need to understand. So where is this cash coming in and where is this cash going out? Cash can come in from operations. Cash can come and go from operations. Cash from operations means your patients can give you money, that is cash coming from operations. You can give money to your suppliers or lab, that is cash going out from you in operations. Cash can come from investing. You invest in property, plant, equipment, new ultrasonic unit, new micromotor, new panoramic X-ray. Cash is going out of you. So that is again another cash flow. Or cash can come from financing activities. What does that mean? Either somebody can give you, bank can give you a loan, your parents can give you some money, or your relatives can give you some money. Sometimes you have to pay this money back. Sometimes you have to pay interest back. Sometimes you have to make the entire principal back to the banks. So these are the three ways in which cash can go out. And this entire cash flow statement will tell you what are all the ways in which the cash has come in, what are all the ways in cash has gone out. And the only way of finding that out is to understand whether your asset has increased, your asset has decreased, your liability has increased, or your liability has decreased. And eventually, if you calculate all the cashes that have come in and gone out, you will know what is the cash in the end. And this cash in the end is not necessarily the profit you showed in the beginning of the P&L statement. And this is something very important to understand. Now, in the business leadership program that we do at the Indian School of Business, this is a full day workshop. It's a workshop about how to read any different kind of P&L, how to read any balance sheet. If you're looking at the balance sheet of a company, you can make a judgment on whether you can invest in it or you can rely on it or not, how to create a cash flow statement. This is a full-fledged workshop. But what I'm trying to give you is just a basic understanding of how things are. Okay, good. So let's move on to how we can get cash and how quickly can we get cash. The only way to get cash in the practice is you buy equipment, you buy stuff, you buy composites, you buy cotton, you buy endodontic instruments, whatever. You use this inventory and then you produce a service, and the service makes you some accounts receivable, things that you have to receive from your patients. Patients give you cash. You convert this into interest rate. You convert this back into inventory. You buy more materials. So the faster you're able to convert your inventory into a service, faster you're able to generate your cash, faster you're able to take your cash and buy more inventory. That is the entire working capital cycle or the cash cycle. And if you keep inventory for 3 months, and it takes you, by the time you convert that into cash, it takes 3 months. Imagine in a year, you can do only 4 such cycles. Or if you keep inventory and stuff for 6 months and it takes you 6 months to convert it back into cash and then back into inventory, you have only 2 6 months in a year. So you can only run 2 cycles. But if you keep an inventory that is, less than a month or 1 month, or you have an inventory for 1 month, you finish the services in 1 month, you convert the entire thing into cash in 2 months, flow it back into inventory. Every 2 months, you can run a cycle. Means you can run 6 cycles every year. This way you understand that What is the relevance of having a correct amount of inventory? What is the relevance of making sure that your business runs faster, you do quicker, faster, more work that can generate cash for us? Why do you let your orthodontic patients pay you money over a long period of time? Develop the habit of collecting cash early, convert that back into inventory, and run as many cycles as you can throughout the year. So this is a very important element of understanding the role of cash in your clinic. Lastly, where else should you monitor cash? One of the major things where you should monitor cash and where cash flows out is when you buy new equipment. And sometimes you think, okay, where am I going to spend the next 35 lakhs in a CBCT? Or let's say, when am I going to spend, or why am I, should I spend the next 10 lakhs in an OPG machine? Should I buy one for the practice? Or should I buy a sterilizer and a new chair and a new ultrasonic unit and a new implant micromotor? What should you do? And should I do it? Should I not do it? This is a decision that has to be taken in an intelligent manner. You have to think through your decisions. Many a times we go to conferences, we see something nice, we're so excited about it, we buy it and it sits in our clinic for years together. Nobody is being doing it. I have a bleaching light that I bought many years ago that is still sitting, and I don't see any role of bleaching lights today in any tooth whitening procedure, just to give you an example. So in order to know whether you have made an intelligent decision, you need to understand a very, very important concept. And that concept is called the time value of money. What exactly is the time value of money? Let me give you a simple example. Let's say you have a godown and a friend of yours comes and says, listen, I have some stuff that's lying in my house. I want to store it in your godown and I want to store it for a year. I'll give you 1 lakh rupees. If you want to money now, I'll give you 1 lakh rupees. But if you wait for a year, I'll give you 1,20,000 rupees. So what is the thing that you will choose? Will you choose the 1 lakh today, now? Or will you choose the 1,20,000 at the end of the year? Now that's your call. But understand a very important thing in this. What is 1 lakh today is worth 1.2 lakhs 1 year from now. Or what is going to be 1.2 lakhs 1 year from now is what is 1 lakh now. 1 lakh has a future value of 1,20,000. And 1,20,000 at the end of 1 year has a present value of 1 lakh. And this is something that you have to really understand to see whether any investment decision that you're making is the right decision or the wrong decision. So how do you do that? Well, let's say you have the same 10 lakhs to buy an OPG machine. Well, if you put it in some mutual funds or if you put it in some, investments, you may make 12%, 13%, 14%, 15%, sometimes even 20%, depending on how risky you want to get. But so instead of putting this in your OPG machine, why don't you go and put it in the mutual funds? Unless you are very certain that what I will make out of the OPG machine or what I'll make out of a new chair or a sterilizer or an ultrasonic or whatever is better than what I'll make it out of a mutual fund, then you have a good decision-making capacity. You have decided aptly. So it all depends on what is the rate of interest that you can get on your money outside. Or if you had an opportunity to invest this 10 lakhs something else, that would be your, and if you chose to invest it in buying a OPG machine, that is your opportunity cost or the opportunity cost of your capital. So understanding this concept is extremely important. And if you do this, then we can say, if I buy an OPG machine, how much money can I get over the next 4 or 5 years? Or if I buy a milling machine to manufacture crowns, how many such crowns can I manufacture? What will be the cash inflows over the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? What will be the cash outflows over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? How much will I spend on materials? How much will I spend on ceramics? How much will I spend on ceramic stains? So on. How much will I spend on labor? So on and so forth. Calculating this, if you calculate what is going to be the future cash flows and bring it down to the current value of what it is. Similarly, if you calculate what will be the future cash outflows and bring it to the current value of what it is, and you do a net, that means you find the difference between the present value of future cash inflows and present value of future cash outflows. You subtract the outflows from the inflows. If you get a positive net present value, which is the net value, it means your investment is a great investment. So NPV or net present value calculation tells you what is the value of the investment that you're making. There are 3 or 4 more mechanisms by which you can send. These are also useful. And last of all, you have another mechanism where you don't use this future cash flow material, otherwise called the discounted mechanism or discounted cash flows. The discount is nothing but essentially it's a financial term for what is the opportunity cost or what is the interest cost that you might have otherwise made. So let me quickly run you through this if it helps you basically understand how you should be dealing with this. So if you look at this, let's say you want to buy a milling machine. And assume that your total cost of capital is 12%. That means your discount rate is 12%. Or if you put this money in a mutual fund, you can generate at least 12% interest. If you put it in a fixed deposit and get 6%, out of which you pay 3% as tax and take home 3%, that's your call. I mean, that's a very low discount rate. But I'm assuming that we make a 12%. So if this is your initial cost of your capital project, you can see over 5 years what are you going to make, what is the money you're going to get. So I can get money from crowns, I can get money from inlays, onlays, so on and so forth. And I'm saying that, okay, my cash inflow at the end of 1 year is going to be 49,50,000 rupees. I'm just making some numbers. Okay, these are assumptions. Don't think this is what's going to happen. These are assumptions. And I'm also making the assumption that on 5 years, nothing is going to change. I'm going to make the same 49,50,000. No, actually, I'll be making more. But just for the sake of calculation, I'm making this. So what we have done here, when you want to calculate the NPV, what you have to do is to find out what is the present value of this 49,50,000, which you're going to get at the end of 1 year. What is the present value of that at 12%? And that is 44,19,643. This is the same story as what is the present value of the 1,20,000 you're going to get at the end of 1 year. Its present value is 1 lakh rupees. Likewise, this is the present value. What is the present value of 49.5 lakhs you're going to get at the end of 2 years? Is 39,46,000 something. What is the present value of 49,50,000 you're going to get at the end of 5 years? Is 28,08,763. So what this table is giving you is the present value over the 5-year period. And so if you calculate what is the cumulative cash flow over the 5-year period, that means if you sum up all of this, you will get a cumulative cash inflow, but this is the present value cumulative cash inflow. Whatever money you're going to get, the present value of that is this cumulative cash inflow. Likewise, you have to also calculate the cumulative cash outflow. I'm going to spend 20 lakhs on materials. I'm going to spend 5 lakhs on drills. I'm going to make 5 lakhs on ceramics, stains and others. So my cash outflow is 31 lakhs. At the end of 1 year, it's going to be 31 lakhs. But the present value of that is 27 lakhs. End of 2 years is 31 lakhs. Present value is 24 lakhs, so on and so forth. At the end of 5 years, this 31 lakhs is worth only 17,59,000 rupees today. So if you see the present value of future cash outflows, then that makes it 1.4 lakhs. So your net present value is this, which is what is the present value of all future cash outflows. From that, you subtract the present value of all future outflows. Whatever is going to come to you from that value, you subtract whatever is going to go out of you in the present value terms, and you get this 24,18,835 rupees. So what this technically means is if this value is positive, if this value is more than 0, this is an excellent, good investment. This is something that you can put your money in. This is the actual value terms in which your business is going to be productive. The next level is called the internal rate of return. It is nothing but the rate of interest, or rather the rate at which your business is generating money. Now, this has a direct bearing with the discount rate. So if the discount rate, let us say this cost of capital is 33%, which means there is some other investment on which you can make 33%, then what will happen is this net present value will come to 0. What it means is this is the 33% that you are making over and above this. This is difference, this difference. Over and above this 12%, whatever additional you're making, that is the actual internal rate of return. So that will give you the percentage return that you're making on your investment. Very important element to clarify. And then, of course, you can also calculate what is the return on investment, which is the net present value by whatever cumulative cash outflow. If your cumulative cash outflow is X, then whatever is the net present value, you divide that and you get. So what all of these things tell you is whether you are making a safe and sound investment or not. And payback period is nothing. You don't take discounted cash rates. You just see how much I made. Well, I spent 42,50,000. I made 49,50,000 in the first year, which means I made all my money in 1 year. There's nothing great to think about, and you can just go ahead. Now, you don't use the payback period so often. You usually stick with NPV, IRR, and ROI. But sometimes when this NPV, IRR, ROI become very very similar to each other, doesn't look too great or doesn't look too nice or too enticing or too exciting, then you say, okay, how quickly can I get my money back? Can I get it back in a year, 2 years? As soon as I get my money back, can I put it in something else? That's the only reason why you look at a payback period. So again, this is a full day, this is a workshop in any of the business leadership program. And so I don't expect you to become masters at this in this 10, 15 minutes, but I expect that you will understand what it is and you can request somebody to help you do this thing. Hopefully we're doing reasonably well on time. The other finance basics. Okay, so review your profit and loss every month. That's a very, very important element. If you don't do that, you're missing out on finance. Like I told you, you are the finance person. Reduce your interest cost. Talk to your banks, reduce the cost of your interest. Implement a cash reconciliation every day. Every day, whatever cash you collect, make sure you write it down. Don't make the habit of picking up cash from your main cash that comes inside your practice and spending it on various things. Be disciplined, take the cash, deposit it in the bank, and then pay yourself a salary or spend out of a petty cash account separately. Do not take cash out of your main cash register and spend it for all the things that you want to. And of course, follow some statutory, norms that you have to do. The change continuing, Ravi, can you change this? Again, something is getting stuck. Trying to escape. Okay. Okay, so again, we went through this, so I won't really do too much here, but just to give you a basic idea. See, if you run 3 clinics, okay, you run one in Adyar, one in Nagar, one in T Nagar, and then you find out if you do all of these P&L, you will know, okay, the cost, my employee cost in Adyar is 50%, it's too high compared to what is happening in Anna Nagar or T Nagar. My administrative cost is also high. My finance cost at which I'm borrowing, amount that I have borrowed is too high. I have to do something about this clinic. So this is just a basic understanding of what you have to do. Similarly, regarding the rate of interest. Now, the rate of interest for what you borrow, whether you borrow for equipment or your home loan or whatever, is determined by the bank. The bank has many mechanisms of giving you a rate, but most of them are tied to what is called as a repo rate from the Reserve Bank of India. Now, then that is the base rate, and then you have a small spread. That is, banks charge a little over and above the repo rate from the Reserve Bank of India for them to manage their operations, take their own money home, salaries home, run their business, so on and so forth. But understand one thing, bank is not obligated to reduce your interest rate if the Reserve Bank of India reduces the repo rate. You have to apply to them. You have to ask them. I know it sounds really, it's crazy and it sounds really, it's like, you see a patient with diabetes, you read the sugar report and don't tell him anything and allow him to get worse. You don't want to do that, right? You tell the patient you're diabetic, go and get yourself checked. But the banks don't do that. They are not obligated to reduce the interest rate. So go to the bank. If you hear something, read your papers. If you hear that the bank rate is coming down, go to the bank, negotiate and get your interest rates down. Every 0.5% makes a big difference. Of course, there is sometimes an application form and a fee involved. So make sure that, whatever fee you pay them, it compensates for whatever reduction in interest rate that you have. The other thing that you do is make sure that everyday cash you deposit in the bank. So if you see here, you have total cash that has been collected, total cash what has been submitted. If there is any difference that is there in the cash, you need to keep that, understand what the balance is. This is a very, very important step. Now, every business have controls, have more than one person looking at your accounts in the front office so that there is some level of control over it. There are a lot of small tactics and big strategies in order to ensure that there's no pilferage and there's no stuff. Again, you can not always be 100% sure of many things, but make sure that at least you have a system in place. People know that somebody is looking at something. If you don't have a system in place, people will assume all sorts of things and you never know what's happening behind your back. So that's something that's important. There are some statutory compliances that you fill. Nowadays, there is this idea that GST is very important and dentists fall under the GST bracket. Practically speaking, most healthcare people don't fall under the GST bracket. Just don't label any of your treatments as cosmetic treatments and stuff like that. And so I'm making laminates and veneers. Yeah, you can make a laminate if you're changing the shade of a tooth, but a veneer is a slightly different thing. You're doing this to protect the teeth or the occlusion or whatever it is. And my suggestion to you is do not get involved or advertise either through social media or through your websites about procedures which are essentially cosmetic. MSMEs, all your suppliers get to be paid in 15 days to 45 days at most. If you don't pay them, some of your expenses can be disallowed. So make a regular habit of paying your suppliers in time. And always pay your advance taxes, otherwise you'll pay penalty and interest. And of course, if you have consultants coming like an orthodontist or anybody, pediatric dentist, whoever comes in, you might have to reduce, give your TDS. Not only do you have to reduce 10% TDS, you'll also have to have it registered in traces. Otherwise, you'll land up paying a phenomenal level of interest and phenomenal level of penalties. So that's a wholesome picture of finance. And I think I took a large part of this time on finance. Of course, there's something that I'll talk quickly on operations. Any operation, try and have a primary responsible person, secondary responsible person, have an accountable person, have a consultant as somebody who can be consulted, and somebody that needs to be informed. Now, let's say you're giving an appointment. We have two receptionists. So there is a primary responsible receptionist, a secondary responsible receptionist, and there is either in your practice you have a junior doctor or an executive assistant or any other doctor that's accountable for ensuring that there is no clash in the appointments. And sometimes they may have to consult you, so you be consultant and be informed. Have a system, and this is called the RACI model, or a system in which you find a responsible, accountable, a consulted, and an informed system of anything, whether it be cash, whether it be material supplies, whether it be appointments, whatever it is. And as far as operations are concerned, spend less time on day-to-day nitty-gritties and more time on understanding what it is. There are lots of software that are available which help you decide, what it is financially, where you're standing. So make use of ready-made softwares. We use sometimes Zoho for most of our billing. We have a very standard list of all possible billing procedures, and this will tell us what has been your income and what expenses we've had. And then even in Practo, you do have a lot of information, like it tells you, what is the total number of patients you've seen, how many new appointments, how many old appointments. All of these things are such that you can drill down into any of these details and look at many of these things over a period of time. The next element that I thought you should understand is identifying what your sales is, and essentially all the things that you do in your practice. You can have items in your practice which are producing high profit and high sales. Like, for example, if you're doing implants, they make a lot of profit and you do make a lot of sale. So am I screen sharing? Is my screen visible? Share. Yeah. Okay. So there are things like implants, for instance, where you have a high profit and high sale. There are things like, you make high profit and low sales. Like if you do an all-on-4, all-on-egg, sometimes the profit is high, but the sales is low. And there are stuff in your practice where it is lower profit, but you have higher sales. Like you do fillings and you have, endo treatment. Probably there's a lot of competition. That service itself has got commoditized, and there's not much margin you can make on that. And then there's stuff like scaling and things which are low profit and low sales. So identify these areas. What is your relative market share and niche? Find out where you have to concentrate more, how you can convert all things which are low profit, high sales into high profit, high sales items. Involve in your business. Look at the business from a plan view, from the top, so you understand each one of these areas, because there's no really point in trying to concentrate on stuff that is low in profit and low in sales. It traps all your cash. And then make a habit of concentrating on stuff that are high profit, high sale, and you do offer all the services, employ people, offer all the services, have the whole gamut of things. But you as an individual need to know where your money is coming from, and that's important. It's also a good idea to analyze your footfall. So you find out, on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, on between 9 and 10 or 11 and 12, when is the best patient flow, when you should have your consultant come in, which is the one where you have maximum income that is being generated, what day of the week, which is time of the year, so on and so forth. These are all information. Data is readily available with you in your practice, and it's a very important. There is a whole branch of data science today, and everything works around data. So it's very important that you calculate something, at least a little bit of the data you gather from your practice, and use it to your best advantage. As far as marketing is concerned, understand that you as an individual are a brand, and you need to show, you need to say, what your brand is. And when you think about a brand, and you think that, okay, I am so good at doing implants, I'm so good at making great fillings, I'm so good at crown and bridge, people come to me for crown and bridge. Well, understand that most of your patients come to you because they like you, not because you do great carving on your composite restorations. It's there. Your product has to be good. If you have a bad product and you market it, that's the best way to kill your product. But if you don't be under the assumption that people are coming to you because you are so great at doing some crown bridge work, or your margins of your restorations cannot be seen. Yeah, it's good to boost your ego, but that's not the reasons, that's not the things that your patients see. So patients value you as an individual more than they value your skills. So that's something that you need to understand. And your brand that you build is secondary to your profession. It is built by habits, it is built by attributes, it is built by what you signal to your patients, which has got nothing to do with your ability to do skills. I mean, I am very, I pride myself on, some of the surgeries or some of the implant things that I do, but I know very well that that's not the reason why I am in business. Okay. And of course, the marketing a practice, there's so many things you can do. Charge for value, don't charge for the cost. Have a good word of mouth distribution, or good word of mouth way of generating better revenue, organically growing your practice, and understand that your brand, you as an individual, is a holistic experience. Patients want to feel valued. Patients want to feel comforted. They want to trust you on your clinical skills, and you signal that. And the cost or the financial cost is not the only cost that is bearing on your patients. If patients find it difficult to schedule, if your receptionist doesn't pick up the calls, if they don't answer back, if they don't follow up on your patients, all of these are a cost. They're all having negative implications. So the entire journey from scheduling to post-operative calling, the entire journey is the experience. And I want you to understand that that journey of that patient is your brand. That is what you're trying to solve. And everything in your practice, your decor, the colors that you choose, your visual identity, and what you speak, what you don't speak, all of those things are signaling something. And you must be aligned in the same way as what you're signaling. Be aligned with who you are, be aligned with your practice. Make sure every staff in your practice is aligned at that. If you're a receptionist, anybody walks in the clinic, they get a bottle of water, or they sit down, the attendant gets a coffee or a juice. These are all things which tell the patient and everybody else that you actually care for them. Patients don't care about how you do your stuff, but they care about how you made them feel. And that's something that's very, very important. And of course, all patients speak with their loyalty. You make a promise to the patient that the patient's not going to forget, and that is measured by referrals and your Google ratings and the way you retain your patients. And lastly, I'll touch a quick bit on inventory as what to hold and what not to hold. Inventory is always a problem between two things. One is the efficiency, how minimally I can store stuff, how many minimal components that you have, versus responsiveness, which is if the patient comes and needs something, do I have it or not? These are two conflicting areas, but these two conflicting areas need to be managed very well. And it takes time and effort and discipline and sincerity to manage all of these things. There are some easy tools in which you can do. We do something called as what's called as an ABC analysis or a VED analysis. We look at products which are, if you look at this, you see that most of the time in most of the practices, 70% of your products cost only 10%. And then there is 10% of your products which cost 70%. Like if you choose implants or zirconium discs, the blanks, the pucks that you have, or if you choose anything else, they are the big bulk of value in your clinic. They cost 70% of your total value. Whereas if you took cotton roll cups, tissues, or those kind of things, they only talk 10%, but their number is more. So 70% stuff costs 10 rupees and 10%, and 10% stuff costs 70%. And then there's this 20% between the two. This is one element of understanding what your inventory is. Concentrate on the things that cost more, because if you get a price reduction, if you get a minimal storage, you save more money, that way. Also, there are things that are vital, essential, and desirable in your practice. There are certain things in your practice that you can't do without. So you can do a matrix between the two. What is the cost? What is vital? What is essential? What is medium cost? So on and so forth. And if you can analyze this and spend some time, then you will be able to know what to stock, what not to stock, and how much to stock. And this is in the business leadership program. This is a very, very important element that is beautifully covered, and a lot of our people who have, taken the program have really enjoyed this particular session, especially if you deal with labs to enjoy this a great deal. And of course, there is something about controlling this inventory. If you can give more data to your suppliers, like for example, let's say you buying tray sheets for, the tray sheets that you put on the patient's on your bracket table in your chair. Let's say a tray sheet costs 1 rupee, so 100 tray sheets will cost you 100 rupees. Now your supplier, let's say Srinivasan, is supplying me tray sheets. Now if Srinivasan knows that I need only 1,000 tray sheets a month, that's good because he will store 1,000. But he doesn't know what my demand is, and so he'll start storing 1,200, 1,500. And like me, if there are 20 people, he stores 30,000 tray sheets, whereas he actually needs only 1,000 into 20, which is 20,000. So another 10,000 tray sheets is lying with him. His money is lying as tray sheets, just because he doesn't have the information that what I am using. So this technically is in supply chain management. This is called the bull Forrester effect or the bullwhip effect. Essentially, if you as the final user have this much demand, then your retailer stores this much, and then the distributor stores this much, and then the manufacturer stores this much. Imagine across the entire supply chain how much of material is being stored, how much money is just getting locked in terms of material, just because information is not flowing through. And if you can share this information, your costs can come down, storage space can come down, warehousing can come down, so many things can come down. So if you collaborate, if you plan, if you forecast, then your costing will come down. And if your costing comes down, obviously you're making more money, more cash, more profits. So these are some of the things we talk a lot of this about in the program as well. And this is a very, very important. These are all very critical areas wherein which can produce a very good effect on the entire outcome. How do I move this? Quickly take hardly a minute or two, and I'll finish now. Skip. Skip. Okay, good. So, summary, I think I talked a great deal about finance, operations, sales, marketing, and inventory, whatever I could. This is not all. This is just the beginning. This is just a primer. Take home message I want to give. Understand that you're an entrepreneur. You're the CEO of your practice. You're not an employee. Don't get into a job mode. You start thinking about it from the business mode. You're a business owner. You have to think for the business. You're not the business. You have to think for the business. Every decision that you make, anything that impacts the bottom line, is a financial decision. Be aware of the financial aspects of your practice. Measure your practice. Have specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely information that helps you build all your operations. Identify your sales. What are the things that are cash cows? What are the things which are stars in your practice? What are the things that is draining money? What are the things that can potentially become stars? Understand that. Analyze the footfall of your practice. Reinvent your strategy of how you're going to work, where you're going to employ people, how many people, what time, so on and so forth. And of course, clinical skills are universal. Everybody knows that you're a good dentist, otherwise they're not sitting on your chair. But more than that, differentiate your brand, differentiate yourself, separate yourself from your skill, differentiate yourself by providing an awesome customer experience. And finally, of course, control your inventory as it directly impacts your bottom line. So I think I took more time than what I was allotted. I'm sorry about that, Anita, but I really do hope, I was happy to share some of my views and thoughts with you. And hopefully, this would make some impact in your day-to-day clinical and practice decision making. Thank you once again, Online Dentistry, and Binu and Joby and everyone else involved for this wonderful opportunity. I really enjoyed making this presentation, and I hope you did too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was indeed an enlightening session. All of us are actually eager to apply all these stuff in our practice. These are very new to us, actually. We are hoping to learn more stuff from you. And I guess our YouTube live is full. Maybe if we can see any questions in the chat box.
Hello, Dr. Arun. Thank you so much. That is amazing. I can relate
Thank you,
everything what you said. 25 years into practice, I can understand what all you said. And I'm sure there are very senior practitioners who listen to us. And I think the YouTube went what, like something like 200 odd, and it's going to go into 500 soon by tomorrow. There are few points which you said. It's just amazing. After 25 years, I am thinking what exactly I was doing all these years. Yeah. You are a person who have come personally to my clinic. You have worked in my clinic. Remember that time?
Yes.
Came to my clinic. But we had a discussion about this. This is amazing. This is amazing about the how to charge your, not the cost, but your experience or the value. So the business part is just amazing. So, Arun, this course which you guys are running, the with the business
leadership program.
Yeah, that's just amazing, actually. So we are going to promote that in our groups and all that. But I'm sure there are many people who listen to you today will have some motivation towards this. We might have to conduct more sessions exclusively on staff management, exclusively on money management. We might have to split this up. You gave everything in one shot, in 1 hour. But that's amazing. You kept the timing like spot on. Yeah, you didn't delay. You started at like what, 9:12 or so. So you were like spot on your timing, with all the stuff being covered. Amazing. Just amazing. So thank you very much, Dr. Arun, for accepting our invitation and coming in. The moment we heard about the whole business program which you guys are doing, we were really impressed, because myself and Dr. Joby, I'm sure we've been taking practice management classes all these years, but this is not what we talk. We wanted somebody to come and talk stuff. That's exactly what you did. Thank you so much. And thank you, Online Dentistry, all the staff of Online Dentistry, and all the people who listened, and all the people who are going to listen soon in the YouTube. YouTube is kind of full. That was very nice. So once again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. Bye. Good night.
Thank you, Binu. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anita. Yeah. Thank you, Joby.
Bye.
Thank you, all the participants. Thank you. Good night.
Next session.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.